Everyone looked up in horror, and a huge umbrella-shaped mysterious object hovered above the city. Dark clouds wrapped around the starry light, and a sense of oppression came to the surface. When everyone jumped far enough, there was a storm without a sign in the sky. Everyone who was hit by the rain was lying on the ground in a huff. Is it an alien invasion or a mysterious supernatural phenomenon? The specific reason has to start from a day ago. The night sky of Stockholm was suddenly torn open by a crack. A golden light spot hovered in the air. Countless tiny bubbles drifted like dust, and the rain fell silently into the city. No one knows that this seemingly romantic golden rain is actually a blind invasion. Biologist Sanderla thinks that the funding is cut short. His real military research project has long been marginalized by the Institute. In order to catch the last life-saving grass, he dug into the dark sewer to collect samples. However, on this day, there was a different discovery. A strange mushroom grew out of the rock wall of the tide. Their shape is distorted, and there is no resemblance to a species. Sandra touched the golden light spot in the sky with her hand and suddenly started to dress up. However, she did not notice it, but took a few photos with her mobile phone. Suddenly, a customer called to urge the call. Sandra had to leave the scene in a hurry, but didn't notice the fog on the wall. It seemed to be transmitting some kind of signal. Unluckily, Sandra was stuck in a crowded traffic jam on the road. She looked anxiously, but found that the passengers were crowded. Looking up in a hurry, Sandra just found that a huge umbrella-like object was floating above the city. She subconsciously took out her cell phone and took a picture of the disturbing scene. The strange floating object instantly exploded, and the whole city was in panic. The Soviet Prime Minister held an emergency national security meeting. British officials warned that the plane must be shot down immediately. But no one knows the origin of this thing. The sudden action is likely to cause unpredictable consequences. At this time, Sandra has returned to the car, and she continues to zoom in on the photos she took, and soon notices the underlying structure of an unknown flying object, which is very similar to the strange mushroom in the sewer. This discovery made his heart beat faster, and the teacher's phone call was connected at the first time. Unfortunately, the other party's mobile phone was turned off, and Sandra could only send the photo, looking forward to the teacher's call as soon as possible. The news of the unidentified flying object quickly spread around the world, and public opinion quickly fermented. Some people believe that it is a kind of alien spaceship, and some people regard it as an inexplicable supernatural phenomenon. And the Swedish government has not yet come up with an emergency plan, because the inspection of the security department shows that in the past 24 hours, no objects have entered the Earth from the atmosphere. The only thing they can do is to seek assistance from the United Nations, air samples around a flying object to prevent the other party from carrying unknown viruses or bacteria. However, his proposal was not implemented in time. It suddenly started to rain heavily in the city. A woman suddenly fell to the ground and twisted her body. Not only did the passers-by around her not save her, but they even took out their phones and took a picture of this scene. This video spread like a virus on the internet. Public opinion gathered towards the huge object in the air. Everyone thinks that this is a biochemical attack brought by extraterrestrials. It was not easy to wait for the rain to pass. The government urgently reduced the rainwater. The military also launched a drone close-up reconnaissance. The test results made everyone feel cold. The unknown object has maintained a constant temperature of 38 degrees Celsius. This means that it is not a mechanical object, but a life form in some unknown location. Therefore, the test results of the sample are also disturbing. Although there is no toxic substance in the sample, a new gene sequence is extracted. This does not belong to any living thing on Earth. With the accumulation of various data, the conclusion of a mushroom is finally drawn. The floating object in the sky is an alien life form, and in the absence of any detection of the monitoring system, he crossed the atmosphere of the Earth and silently descended into the human world. In the face of the growing panic, Prime Minister Nishiyama held an emergency press conference and announced that he would evacuate street, remain in stages. For safety reasons, Sandra and her boyfriend moved to a house in the suburbs. He repeatedly compared the photos on his phone, and the more he looked at it, the more he felt that the alien and the mushroom in the sewer were of the same species. In order to verify the speculation in the heart, Sandra walked out of the house and was ready to take a clearer picture. Alien life suddenly bloomed with brilliant golden light, and everyone looked up at the sky blindly, not knowing what all this meant. Sandra suddenly had a bold idea. The next morning, while her boyfriend was still asleep, she quietly walked out of the wooden house. It turned out that Sandra was going back to the city to see the mushrooms in the sewer. However, the city at this time has been closed. She lied that she was going to stay at home and successfully passed the checkpoint. Not long after, Sandra dug into the sewer again. When he approached the wall, he glared in shock, because the mushroom was fighting with a soft golden light. We came for peace. But what Sandra did not know was that a military strike against extraterrestrial life was being deployed in the secret meeting room at this time. The Swedish military plans to take the lead before the US military intervention. But before that, they need to collect more data. Security consultant George risked his life and took a helicopter to go there himself. However, when he arrived at the predetermined location and opened the collection device, an alien suddenly sprayed a strong airflow. The experienced pilot was shocked on the spot. He operated the plane without hesitation and stayed away, because this is not an ordinary gas at all, but a gas that burns and explodes. Once it explodes, the whole city will be considered flat. At this time, Sandra has left the sewer. She took a shiny mushroom sample and was going to find a teacher. However, the other party's cell phone still does not work. Sandra thought over and over again, ready to go to the institute in person. However, the situation at this time has allowed him to study slowly. After the United States learned the news of alien life, it directly sent a fleet to Sweden according to the space safety law. At this time, all the staff of the U.S. embassy have been evacuated. The military speculates that they will launch an attack on extraterrestrials tonight. However, there are still hundreds of thousands of people who have not evacuated. The female prime minister can only implement a temporary curfew to try to reduce the risk of loss to the lowest. But everyone here knows that once an extraterrestrial being is shot down, the fall of the wreckage is enough to cause a catastrophic disaster. At this time, Sandra has arrived at the institute and has found a reason to deceive the security guard at the door stops. She quickly ran into the lab and found an electronic microscope. After putting it in her backpack, she rushed out of the institute in a hurry, confirmed that there is no one in the world. Sandra can't wait to open the umbrella of the mushroom, and a golden transparent liquid comes out slowly. She has been studying the real army for many years and has never seen such a strange structure. Sandra hurried to extract a tube of liquid and was going to find a place to further study it. In the blink of an eye, she came to a biological laboratory. Due to the alien invasion incident, there was already a crowd of people here. Only a puppy was waiting in the yard. Sandra turned over the iron fence, and the puppy rushed at her. In a hurry, she took out the mushroom sample she was carrying with her. Unexpectedly, after the dog show, it became quiet for a moment, and Sandra didn't think much, and violently smashed the glass door into the lab. She dropped the golden liquid into the biological analyzer and found a lot of hydrogen in it. Sandra just took the test data and heard the footsteps of the patrol security. She quietly hid behind the door, looking for a chance to fly out quickly, and finally turned over the iron fence, but found her own car locked. At this time, her boyfriend called, and many people had received official notice that the military was planning to attack extraterrestrial life forms and asked everyone to evacuate. Sandra knew very well that there was a lot of gas in this alien body. If attacked, the whole city could be destroyed. She had to tell the Ministry of Defense about this. At this time, George had returned to the government building. She told everyone that the alien body would release gas. George's view is the same as Sandra's. That is, you must not launch an attack at will. But when she was close to the alien body, she also captured a low-frequency sound wave. Researchers converted it into a sound sequence and further decoded it into words. The meaning shown is outrageous: either surrender or destroy. Unexpectedly, extraterrestrial beings showed such obvious hostility. A fierce discussion broke out immediately in the conference room, and the voice of claiming to fight back occupied the mainstream. Even if George insisted on a peace treaty, Prime Minister Kennedy eventually made a decision, that is, to launch a missile attack on extraterrestrial beings before the United States. Even if the whole city was buried, that's better than being beaten passively at that time. At this time, Sandra has come to the government building. Unfortunately, she was stopped by the guards in front of the door when she was anxious. George, who was in a daze, happened to walk out of the building. Sandra had seen this security consultant on TV, so she immediately rushed forward and shouted, emphasizing that the alien life was full of fresh air. This instant alerted George. After all, relatives are highly confidential. He immediately released the guard and took the initiative to ask the reason. Sandra would not miss a good opportunity. She told George all of her findings. She thought the alien was releasing goodwill signals to humans. If she took the initiative to attack, it was likely to cause a war between the two sides. George felt that this was a big deal and immediately passed the message to the female prime minister. However, there was less than an hour left before the military launched the attack. In addition, Sandra had a criminal record many years ago, in addition to the act of forcibly breaking into the lab. Her deductions are not credible at all. The opposite attitude is that Sandra's teacher, Professor Morgan, a biology professor at George's University. After seeing the photos sent by Sandra, a high alert rose in his heart. For this reason, he specially went to the sewer to carefully inspect those strange mushrooms. At this time, Sandra had learned from George that the official did not believe his deductions. He is not only not discouraged, but also has a strong determination. Since mushrooms and extraterrestrials have a connection, he thinks he can build a communication bridge. With the military, George decided to try it himself, because he had already been diagnosed with liver cancer at a late stage, with only half a year left. The next second, George took a piece of mushroom and stuffed it into his mouth. A strong sense of suffocation arose. He felt that the sofa under him was softening, and his body was slowly sinking uncontrollably. When he opened his eyes again, he was already in an abandoned house. The medal on the gold mine is the honor that George won. The toy villain on the corner suddenly made a sound. He recognized that this was a birthday gift from his father, and the message conveyed by the toy man was that we came with peace. The next second, George's consciousness returned to the body. He determined that this is the way to communicate with extraterrestrials. So he grabbed a piece of mushroom and stuffed it into his mouth. This time he was on a deserted road, and the toy man in the dirt pit by the roadside was still repeating the message of peace in order to verify the sincerity of extraterrestrials. In the real world, Sandra kept repeating a coordinate in George's ear, hoping that he could pass it on to extraterrestrials. In the illusion, at this time, the air in the government conference room has solidified, and the military has completed all the deployment. When the female prime minister gave the final command, she was about to press the fire button, and the phone sent a message to George not to fire. Almost at the same time, the surveillance screen shows that the aliens hovering in the sky of the city are starting to move slowly. Sandra shows a crazy look, because the direction of the alien bodies movement is the coordinate she had previously designated. The female prime minister immediately canceled the missile launch order, and the US fighter jet also returned to the air. When everyone thought the crisis was over, Sandra's mentor Morgan suddenly called on the government. He believes that the alien body is a high-degree cognitive injection material. Humanity has just missed the best time to destroy it. The price paid for this may be the destruction of the world. At this time, the alien creature has moved to a remote mountainous sky. The hole at the bottom suddenly shines brightly. A luminous sphere slowly falls down. I don't know what is hidden inside. Is it a peaceful messenger? Or an invasion vanguard? Friends who want to know the answer, please continue to pay attention. See you next time.